Everything feels quiet right now, but something big just happened. While gold has been breaking all-time highs, tech has been entering into correction territory, while macro pressure keeps building. We have strategy just having added $2 billion of Bitcoin. Chainlink now powering live payments for Visa, and Circle USDC now lining up for its IPO. While S&P companies are continuing to add Bitcoin to their treasuries. At the same time, however, we're seeing death crosses across major charts, a recession threat signal flashing red, capital fleeing into safe haven, safe assets, and unfortunately, US equity markets posting their worst relative quarter in the last 23 years. And yet, Bitcoin is holding support, filling gaps, and quietly gaining strength. This is not what you'll hear on CNBC, but if you're watching closely, this is the shift you would see happening. So in this episode, welcome guys, my name is Jessica. This is exactly what we're gonna cover in today's video. So without further ado, let us jump into today's content. Okay, so what do we have going on in the market? We're gonna start from the macro and work our way down into crypto specific news. So here you would see as shared by Jim Bianco, and he shares basically that Japan's index of their top 225 stocks called NIKKEI. Not sure if I'm saying it right. It declined 3%. Now this is quite significant and comes in as a signal of the fact that Japanese investors, like US investors and like the rest of the world right now, they're feeling uncertain with all this, these talks of tariffs and of course the war situation, and basically watching what's happening in the US that ricochets, that has a domino effect throughout all the markets of the world, and especially once again in light of tariffs. So that's not the best news, I know, but unfortunately this is what we have to cover today because it's just how the market's doing. So we just have to take it in as information and use it to help equip us in how we manage our portfolios, but definitely not be scared. So long as you're managing your portfolio and your finances well, you really have nothing to be worried about. So what else is going on is that aside from the Nikkei, the Japanese index of the top 225 companies, we also see that, as I'll highlight here, as shared by Global Market Investor, that the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ 100 futures are down 0.8% and 1.3% respectively. So this is also what fear and uncertainty looks like in the market, and that's what we're seeing here. And apparently, now while what I'm about to share with you here sounds scary, you have to also remember that it's not a for sure solid indicator of future market performance. But they are something to take into consideration, and they do tell us how the market is doing right now, but they're not necessarily future, like a bulletproof, like it's not foretelling the future here. But what I have to share with you here is that the NASDAQ, QQQ, and the S&P 500 and Bitcoin as well appear to be headed towards a death cross indicator, like market pattern, basically. So I did a little side research because I'm not a pro trader, just to give you guys a breakdown of what this really means. What does this death cross mean, right? And what is the significance? And this is what I found was that essentially this death cross indicator is a chart pattern where a short-term moving average, typically the 50-day, crosses below a long-term moving average, usually the 200-day moving average. This crossover is viewed as a bearish indicator, suggesting potential for further declines in asset prices and could signal a broader market downturn, though it's not a definitive predictor of market performance. And typically, investors and traders will take in other indicators into account as well before making decisions. And we know that, as I've shared in past shows, we have the global money supply going up, which always has an impact on Bitcoin. So we have that factor. Yeah, but let's keep moving on. We also, on the positive side of things, have gold, which is no surprise, right? If the market, traditional market, riskier, assets in the market are not doing good and the US dollar continues to lose its value, then obviously gold will continue to go up in price. As we can see here in this chart I shared by bar chart, that gold hit its new all-time high as well. So what this tells us is that investors are looking to move their assets, their money, their value into safe assets like gold. Similarly, Bitcoin can be compared to gold. So even though as of right now, Bitcoin, along with the NASDAQ and the S&P 500, appear to be headed into this death cross pattern and not pumping at the moment, it doesn't matter. It doesn't change Bitcoin's fundamental value. It doesn't change the fact there's only going to be 21 million Bitcoin, right? And if you've been following my past videos, or if you haven't, you should know we have some of the biggest companies in the world right now buying Bitcoin aggressively. We have France having bought, I don't remember the number at the top of my head right now, but they recently purchased a significant amount of Bitcoin to bring into their own treasury. We have BPI France that also on the same day announced they were acquiring Bitcoin for their company's holdings. As of yesterday, we had Marathon Digital acquiring several billion dollars, couple billion dollars of Bitcoin. And we have Michael Saylor through his company now called Strategy, also just announcing yesterday that they acquired another 22,048 Bitcoin for $1.92 billion. So we're seeing, like, what are we seeing? Like, let's look at the patterns. We have gold hitting a new all-time high right after we see the market kind of reacting negatively, correcting, right? It's down right now. So we see people moving their money. We see investors naturally moving their money into gold. And that's why gold is at an all-time high. And you have more modern companies, right? Like Strategy buying Bitcoin. So they're moving their money right now. Like, the market is scared because of what's going on with these tariffs. We know that tomorrow is April 2nd and it's like tariff liberation day, and it's going to be volatile. I've said it in my past videos, and we just have to be steady these days. Like, this week is going to be volatile, and that's all there is to it. And in the meantime, you see smart money moving their money into the equivalent of either gold or digital gold right now. So that's incredible. Not only that, but according to Bitcoin News, or to piggyback off of the previous statement I was making and the previous news I covered here, we also have now an estimate by Bitcoin News saying that by 2030, so in 5 years, they're estimating 25% of the S&P top 500 companies could be holding Bitcoin on their balance sheets. And that's because as of now, we only have 90 companies holding Bitcoin, which is still a lot, considering Bitcoin was just invented a little over a decade ago. So that's really, really fast, really quite aggressive. And this projection, though I'm careful with projections, just as I am about and with sharing market indicators, because it's hard to foretell the future. And I don't want to be the person that spreads fear and uncertainty when a lot of the way we look at news and has to do with how we interpret it, right? Like, you see the world through your own lens. So if you're fearful, you're going to see everything in a fearful way. And if you're optimistic, you're also going to see everything. You're always going to find the silver lining in things, no matter how negative they seem. So I am careful in sharing projections with you, but this is one that, while maybe it's not 25% of the 500 top companies in the S&P 500 that will hold Bitcoin, if we just look at the current stat, there's 90 public companies holding Bitcoin right now. And that's because the Bitcoin ETF was just approved last April. So it hasn't even been a year that Bitcoin got its like public market debut. And we've already seen such incredible adoption. So I could definitely foresee a lot more, that's for sure. So that is why I do share this bit of positive news, because the market is gloomy right now. It is turbulent. So it's important to hear news like this as well, to keep us in check and in perspective, and remembering that Bitcoin's only going to go up in value. So we have nothing to worry about. That said, finishing up on macro news, we do have Goldman Sachs having released this economics research paper on the market. And they're basically And this is like a negative probability. So take this as education, just general information that you're going to absorb because it's what's going on in the market. This is the chatter. Okay. This is the gossip that's going on in the market. So it's important for you to know. But does this mean that just because Goldman Sachs and oh my gosh, they're such a big, rich company, does it mean that this is a fact? No, it doesn't. Okay. Companies just make a practice of releasing their projections every so often. So they are saying, as I'll zoom in on here for you, that they now foresee a 12-month recession probability of 35%. So they assign probabilities. I don't know how they calculate them. I'm sure it's a very smart, intelligent way, but it's nevertheless a probability because no one can prove it. And this is up 15% from their previous 20% estimate. And if you continue to read what they say here, this is based off of the statements from the White House officials indicating greater willingness to tolerate near-term economic weakness and pursuit of their policies. So just even listen to the way they write this. It sounds a little, I don't want to say vindictive or stressed, but it does, right? Like listen to the language that they chose. So clearly Goldman Sachs is not happy because they're an active market participating company. So obviously they're not happy with this tariff that are going on, this tariff, like war, so to speak, because it affects their business immediately, right away, right? Whereas in terms of agendas, the White House and President Trump and the US administration, they have a long-term agenda to stabilize the economy. So the agendas are not aligned. I think they are aligned in the long term. I think Goldman Sachs would agree that in the long term they want a healthy economy with, and I think they would agree to the fact that the US should have with the rest of the global market participants, the other countries, there should be fair global trade, right? And tariffs should not be 100% imposed on one country and then, only like things should be fair in the market. So I think Goldman Sachs agrees to that in the long run. In the short term, Goldman Sachs is affected now. And so, of course, they're not happy with it. And so they would use language like in pursuit of their policies. So, anyway, we're going to move on. I'm just letting you know what Goldman Sachs is publishing because you may hear it later on at work or people talking about it. And all you have to know is that it's a probability measure. Who knows how they measure it? And regardless, no one can predict the future. That said, though, the market in general is shaky right now. For sure, it's shaky right now. So we have basically the US trade policy uncertainty index now also approximately 25% above the Trump War 1.0 high. The S&P 500 is down. We already talked about this. So Kabesi letter, and they're good. I have caught a few mistakes in their content in the past, but generally they're good. They break it all down. So if you want to go find this thread, I'm not going to go through it in detail with you, but they break down what's going on, and like how things have been unfolding basically since Trump got into office, taking like excerpts, like highlighting parts, where Trump has said, he couldn't care less if automakers raise car prices. We have to be careful because this interview is with NBC. So many of these news media outlets are left leaning, meaning they hate Trump. And I watch all this news as well myself. So I have not seen or heard Trump be dismissive about the economy. He's always quite practical and explains why we need to correct the ship right now, so to speak. So anyway, I'm going to graze over this information. The point is that all these indexes, right, and these probabilities are coming in like negative right now, which is understandable because this is a volatile week. So moving on, what else we should know about what's going on the macro, like international market level is we have very hot core inflation data coming in from Germany today. So yeah, this could, it's very likely in response to the tariffs as well that's going on in Germany. And we have bond markets now officially flashing also a stress alert. So we have Zero Hedge here talking about it on X and saying that hopefully the Fed wakes up soon. We'll have to see what the Fed's next statement is because we know that they decided to loosen up on their quantitative tightening. So we'll have to see what that means, like what the next step is, right? And we'll have to see basically what happens with these tariffs because this is the week. This is the week, April 2nd. And then I think on April 3rd, on Thursday, there's tariffs being enacted on the EU and Mexico, or like, forget exactly. But this whole week is red, like highly volatile, guys. So you just need to sit back with some popcorn. As long as you have your finances taken care of and you're invested into Bitcoin, you have nothing to worry about. Like, just know that I'm going to be bringing you the news anyway and telling you what's going on because it's important to know. And then to top things off, apparently we're having the worst quarter for US stocks relative to the rest of the world in 23 years. So the stock market isn't doing good. Of course, we know this because of tariffs. Once again, this is the week it's going down. And it's been volatile basically since Trump took the reins because he's trying to correct, like, imagine like the Titanic, right? Like a huge ship. And like before the Titanic crashed into the iceberg, if the captain had decided, at the fourth quarter, move trajectories to move the ship, that would have been a dramatic move. Everyone on the boat would have felt it. Unfortunately, it crashed, right? Which is where the US was headed, where the whole world was headed. So, of course, it's dramatic. But if you were on the Titanic and the captain decided, spotted the iceberg, in time and then made this dramatic turn and just told everyone, hey, hang on, you'd be grateful. In your heart of hearts, you'd be grateful. And so that is what we're experiencing right now. So all of this, frankly, should not be shocking. I'm just sharing the data with you. And what it does ultimately point to, let me just back up real fast. What it does ultimately point to, it ultimately is a case for Bitcoin. It ultimately, as we saw a moment ago, Michael Saylor's buying through his company strategy. We have giants pouring in billions of dollars into Bitcoin. So they obviously know, and we know, like if you're here, you know this too, and if you're new, then I'm here to tell you, welcome. Just buy some Bitcoin. That's all you need to know. So ultimately, all of this market turbulence is a case for Bitcoin. So you have nothing to worry about. But that said, now to start wrapping up the show, just a key top crypto token updates for you. Okay, I'm very, very selective on what I share with you and what I hold and believe in. So we have here an update that Chainlink, which is a beast, Chainlink connects systems, right? It can connect all traditional finance banks with like blockchain and DeFi. It can connect, it's like massive, like mycelium or like web that connects basically like all systems that it's applied to. And right now it has, I guess, partnered or integrated with Visa, and they're now allowing for Visa tokenized assets to move around within their system. So this is pretty big. I would go look it up if I'm holding Link and go do some more reading on it, but I'm just letting you know what's happening. And this is awesome and so beautiful to see. Like Link is a beast and an incredible project that is actually going to help the world get to the next level. So this is amazing news I wanted to share with you. And then this is just like a quick little recap because I shared how Pump Swap, the DEX that launched on Solana, that was launched by Pump.fun, which is responsible and was like, the facilitator of the whole meme token craze. Their hype is now dying down, right? So that's why I'm sharing it with you because I told you it would happen. So anyway, it's slowing down. And to end things on another awesome note on what is going on the bleeding edge of crypto, of tech and finance, you have Circle or USDC, right? Basically announcing like Circle hires banks. They're hiring banks for their anticipated IPO. They're going public sometime late this month. So happy April, by the way. And with that, guys, we wrap up today's show. So I hope, leaving this video that yes, the market is dumping or corrected. Of course, it's no surprise because we know this is the week it's all going down with the tariffs. So it's going to be volatile. We know that. We also know that the smartest smart money in the world, they're moving their money into gold and into Bitcoin right now. So that is what you need to know. That needs to be your takeaway. And other than that, you have the best projects in crypto continuing to build. And that's what people do. That's what good crypto projects do during a bear market or a slow time is they build. And that is actually one of the ways you know that you've invested into a good project, into good crypto investment, is if they keep building, right, during these quiet times. So anyway, just another day in the crypto market. Bitcoin is going to do amazing here and into the future. So no worries there. And I will catch you guys here tomorrow for Tariff Liberation Day. So we'll see how that goes. And I love you guys very much. And I'll catch you guys tomorrow. Bye.